Okay, today's workout is all about the glutes. We're going to be working them from every angle, the glute max, the glute min, the glute med, and we're going to feel that burn. It's a short and spicy one, so let's get straight into it. We're going to start lying on our backs with our feet parallel, flat on the floor. We're going to exhale as we sink that belly button in towards the floor, press through those heels, roll up through the spine, top of that glute bridge. Inhale at the top, exhale, roll back down. So we're just warming up through the spine here and starting to engage those glutes. So really tucking the pelvis underneath at the top, leading with those hips, and then keeping them high as you roll the spine back down, melting back down into the mat. We can think of pressing through those heels to maybe get some more engagement through the hamstrings. We're keeping those arms nice and long, shoulders nice and open, rib cage staying down. The next time we roll up, we're going to hold it up at the top, really tuck under with those glutes. Exhale as we lift that right leg to tabletop. Inhale, tap those right toes down. Keeping those hips nice and stable. Exhale, we lift. Inhale, we tap, reach away. The chest is staying open. That left leg is staying active. The left inner thigh pulling us in. The left heel grounding us down in towards the mat. We're keeping that rib cage relaxed. And we're keeping that right leg moving. Either stick with that or option extend that leg to the sky. We're going to point the toes as we lower that leg, flex the foot as we lift. Point to lower, flex, lift it up to the sky. We're really straightening behind the back of that knee, keeping that leg extended, finding that full length. Just lifting and lowering, keeping both hips at the same height. Still keeping that left inner thigh active. We're going to hold the last one up at the top. Flex the foot and pulse, squeezing up, up, up. Small little hip drops, reaching, and then lower the hips all the way down, squeeze back up. Full range. We lower, exhale, squeeze back up. Let those hips drop to the mat and then squeeze back up. We lower that leg down, re-engage with those glutes, roll back down through the spine. Exhale, press the belly button down, tuck and roll up, top of that glute bridge again. This time shift the weight over, exhale, lift that left leg, inhale, tap those left toes. So opposite leg this time. Exhale as we lift, inhale as we tap. Aiming to keep that 90-degree angle behind the knee, keeping those hips lifted, both hips at the same height. Again, that rib cage staying down. We'll go for 2 more like this, pressing into the mat with those arms, with those shoulders. Now option if you want extending that leg towards the ceiling and then point the toes on the way down. Flex as we lift. Point the toes as you reach away. Flex as you lift. That right heel is keeping you grounded, that right inner thigh pulling you in. Again, pulling the glutes, pulling the hips up towards the sky. We're straightening behind the back of that left knee. And then last one, we can hold it towards the sky, small hip drop, squeezing up and up and up, pumping through towards the ceiling. Last one, we lower the hips all the way down towards the mat. Exhale, squeeze back up. Inhale, we lower. Exhale, squeeze back up. Finding that full range each time. Imagine you're kicking through the ceiling with that heel, and then lower that foot down, rolling back down through the spine. We're going to find that neutral pelvis at the bottom, then exhale, sink that belly button, press through the heels, roll up one last time. Find the top of that glute bridge and then roll yourself back down, melting into the spine, and then rocking up to a seated position so we can roll forwards on our hands and knees. We're in this all fours position and we're just going to reach that right leg back behind us, reach the toes towards the sky and then draw it back down. Exhale as we push away, inhale, draw it back down. So we're working through that glute max. We're keeping that knee bent. We're thinking of reaching those toes up towards the sky. We're still thinking of that core, so we're pulling that belly button up and away from the floor. Try not to sink through that lower back. Our last one, we'll hold it up there. We'll flex through the foot, we'll pulse up to the sky, pulsing up and up. We're going to keep that thigh still. We're going to extend that leg long and then pulse the leg up towards the sky with a straight leg. Squeezing with that glute. And then lower that knee back down. This time we're going to exhale as we open it out towards the side. Inhale, draw it in. So working through that glute med, working through the side glute. Still staying aware of that core, and we're pushing the floor away with those arms, keeping those shoulder blades wide. Think of opening out from the knee. Finding that external rotation, try not to hike the hips up. We're going to hold this last one at your highest point and then pulse towards the sky, squeezing up and up and up. Last one, we hold it up there, lower that left forearm down towards the mat, extend that right leg long, bend it back in, lower to the mat. Open through that knee, extend it away, bend that knee, draw it back down. So finding that external rotation, then that extension, then we bend it back in, lower it back down. So really working into that glute, we're pressing down into that forearm. We're keeping nice and balanced through the body. We're going to extend that leg long, hold it there, pulse it up towards the sky, last push here. Fight for that end range. And then lower that leg down, swivel yourself around so you're lying on your left hand side. We're going to keep those hips stacked as we open out through that top knee, going for that clamshell. Staying lifted through the torso, so keeping that waist pulling away from the floor, pressing into the forearm, just opening and closing through that top knee. Trying not to roll backwards with those hips. So this one's quite a simple move, but I really want you to focus on that glute activation. So engage that glute and then we lift. Option stick with this, or option if you want we can start to add a hip lift. So as you open through that knee, we lift those hips up off the floor and then lower the hips, close the knee down. We're pushing into that forearm, pulling that underneath shoulder away from that ear, and then we can lower the hips down. We're going to reach that underneath arm out long so we can rest that head on the bicep, extend that top leg. We're going to flex the foot as we drift it forwards, point the toes as we drift it back. Drifting forwards and backwards with that leg, staying aware of that torso, keeping the upper body still, that core engaged. And think of lifting out from the underneath side of the waist still, so we're not sinking all our weight down. We're keeping that leg straight. We're keeping that leg at hip height. And then we can hold the last one forwards, relax the toes down, pulse that leg down, 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 small little drops. And then draw that leg back in, place it on top of the other one. Reaching up onto your side, we're going to swivel ourselves around. We'll come onto our all fours to start on the other side. So we're going to exhale as we send that left leg up towards the sky this time. Inhale, draw it back in. Think of those toes reaching towards the ceiling. Think of activating through the hamstring, through that glute as you lift through the leg. Keeping that core engaged, keeping that belly button up. Keeping that angle behind the knee. Pushing the floor away with those arms, upper body active still. Looking down directly at the mat, we'll hold the last one up at the top, flex through the foot, pulse to the sky, squeezing up and up and up. Activate through that glute. We hold the thigh still as you extend that leg long, pulsing up to the sky again, keeping that foot flexed. We're squeezing up with that heel, and then we can lower that leg down. We're going to exhale as we open out towards the side. Inhale, draw it back in. Going for these kneeling clamshells, finding that external rotation and then drawing it back in. Careful we're not hiking that hip up, both hips staying at the same height, both hip bones staying level, and our weight even through both sides of the body, even weight through both hands. Find that activation through the glute each time before you lift that leg. We'll go for one more. And then we'll hold that one at the top, small little pulses, pulse higher towards the sky, opening up and up and up. We lower back down, we come down onto that right forearm, this time open that knee out, extend that leg long, reach away, bend it back in, lower down towards the mat. So we externally rotate, reach away, bend back in, lower back down. We're finding that full extension as you reach those toes away from you. We're pressing down into that forearm, pulling that shoulder down away from the ear. Find that length each time. Really open that hip up for your last one. Pulse towards the sky, squeezing up and up and up. Feeling this through the side of the glute. We lower that leg down. We come down onto that side. We're going to stack those hips. Open out through that top knee. Close it back down. Exhale each time you open up. Inhale, close it back down. Try not to let that waist sink. So we're keeping the lower waist lifted, pushing down into the floor with that forearm. We're keeping those toes touching as we open those knees out wide, lower back down. Option stick with this, or option lifting those hips up each time. Exhale as you open those knees, lift those hips. Inhale, close those knees lower towards the mat. Keeping those hips nice and stacked still, the chest nice and open. And then we can lower ourselves down, extend that underneath arm out long, extend that top leg, flex through the foot as you draw it forwards, point through the toes, draw it back. Flexing as you reach that foot all the way forwards, point through the toes, stretch it back, feel the stretch through the front of your hip. Flex and get that hamstring stretch, point through the toes, stretch the front of your hip. Torso staying still, just hinging from that hip downwards. Trying to keep that leg nice and extended, really activating through the glutes, the hamstrings, the quads, the calves, the ankles. We'll drift it forwards for our last one, small drops down. Drop and 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 bend it in, reaching up onto your side. Swivel yourselves around so you can lie down on your back. We'll just stretch off those glutes, so we'll hook that right foot over that left knee, coming into this figure four stretch, just pulling on the back of that left thigh. Feeling the stretch down the right hand side of the glute. Maybe you want to move side to side, just mobilize through the glute if that feels good. And then switching the legs over, place that left foot on top of that right knee, hug those knees in, hands underneath the thighs. Feeling the stretch down the opposite glute this time, down your left side. Again, maybe rock side to side if that helps. Hug those knees in towards the chest for a final time, rocking up to seated, and we're finished. Thank you all for joining me. Hopefully see you next time.